sir. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is the January 21st, 2021 special call meeting of the City County Planning Commission. I'll ask Ms. Martin to please call the roll.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Balance,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Day, Commissioner Graham,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld, Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren,
Ma'am.
Chair Runner.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioners, you've all had a chance to read the summary minutes of the January 7th meeting. Are there any corrections to those minutes? No corrections, then I'd ask for a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner Balance,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld,
Ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren,
Ma'am.
Chair Runner.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Runner, I request that you order that the record include for tonight's hearings all of the statutory and regulatory provisions that govern those applications, the commission's entire file for each application on tonight's docket, and the qualification for each staff witness. Finally, I request that you administer the oath to those witnesses.
So ordered. And do you all swear to tell the truth before this commission?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you all. And next on the agenda is the financial report. I believe Ms. Mooney's with us this evening.
Hello, everybody. I've got a really quick update for everybody on our second quarter budget. Everybody should have had a copy of the budget in their packets this time. We're exactly halfway through this fiscal year. And if you look on your budget, you'll notice that our total income, we were at 49.5%, which is exactly where we want to be for income right now. And on the second page, we're at 46% of our anticipated expenses, which means we haven't spent quite as much as what we anticipated, so that's good as well. Nothing really big going on or exciting with the budget right now. Are there any questions I can answer for anyone?
Megan, this is Tim Graham. I think I know the answer to this, but just want to clarify. On the
Sure.
income city contribution, for example, it shows 240,500 with a budgeted 481,000. Is it customary for them to do that in 2 installments? Is that what's going on, or?
They send us a quarterly check.
Okay. That makes perfect sense.
So we get 120,000 and some change each quarter from each the city and the county.
Okay, great. And so since we're halfway through, that's why it's showing 50% then.
Exactly.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions I can answer for anyone?
Hello.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate all you do, Ms. Mooney. Thank you very much.
Do we need a motion to approve this, or are you just keeping us updated?
For information.
This is just an update.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Subdivision and site development plans. Any questions on those in the packet? No questions. We'll move on to letters of credit and performance bonds. We had 2 items. Any questions on those? I need a motion. No questions? We need a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner Balance,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren,
Ma'am.
Chair Russell.
Yes. I do not believe we have any unfinished business or new business. That brings us down to the public hearing. And I have had a request this evening that on your agenda, item number 2, that is Gator Development LLC and others, and item number 6, which is HUB East LLC. Those 2 have requested to be at the end of item 10. So we'll do those last. If there's no objection, we'll skip right over number 2 and number 6 and do those at the end of the meeting. So our first item tonight, docket number 2020-01 DP, Capstone Real Estate Investment LLC and WKU LLC have filed an application to amend the general development plan, which are the development plan conditions on a tract of land containing approximately 19.74 acres located at 2426 Thoroughbred Drive. This property is zoned RM4, which is multifamily residential with a general development plan. So we will hear the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Runner. We had a pre-application conference on November 23rd for the property you see outlined here in yellow. As Chair Runner's already stated, that property is zoned RM4. And its current use is multifamily residential. As you can see, this is of course right over off Campbell Lane. So you've got kind of a mixture. You got some single family, commercial, public and public institutional in the area. And future land use map has this designated as high density residential. So the applicants, and I think the brief summary of the request on the first page of the staff report does a pretty good job of explaining what this request is. The applicants would like to increase the maximum number of units permitted on the property from 218 to 362. But although that unit number is proposed to increase, the total number of beds is proposed to decrease from 761 to approximately 587, with the focus of the housing is proposed to shift from WKU students to traditional apartment dwellings. So I feel like that's a pretty good description of what this request is. Increased units, but they're wanting to decrease the beds due to some interior renovations. With that, the proposed density would be 18.34 dwelling units per acre. The development plan remains consistent with the flume, and this body should determine if the proposed changes to the development plan are compatible with the surrounding area. Staff has noted in the compatibility with the surrounding development that there are established tree lines on portions of the property and sinkholes are prevalent in the immediate vicinity. Going on to page 2, the only thing I'll note under the site characteristics review, again, is just that the property is already developed with several structures. The applicants want to renovate the interior of the existing structures, resulting in that increase of units, but a decrease in the number of beds. A summary of the proposed changes is outlined on the attached preliminary development plan. Just want to note, just for the sake of correcting it, that under the site design and compatibility review, that incorrectly states that the density of the proposed development is 19.74. That's the acreage. That should say 18.34. Moving on to the development plan conditions. I'll go on to page 3 since that's where the changes are. Everything else is proposed to change except these things. Proposed to remain the same except for these things. Number 10, where it currently has the property will be developed with a maximum of 218 units. They have proposed to change that to 362 residential units and a maximum of 10 residential buildings. With that, they have number 13 deleted with a new number 13 that just is a housekeeping item that states that those old binding elements are deleted in their entirety. So on the bottom of that page, you see there just the zoning ordinance requirements to amend the general development plan. The applicant submitted a narrative to address those findings. So it's a little lengthy, but I'm going to go ahead and read it. The applicant stated, Hilltop Club Apartments is currently comprised of 218 units, 761 bedrooms, with all but 2 units being 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom units, 108, and 4-bedroom, 4-bath units, 108. The property was purpose-built as student housing in 2005 to cater to Western Kentucky students. The original development was successful for a time, but started to see a decline in occupancy when more purpose-built student housing properties were added to the market over the past 15 years. The newer and often better located properties created competition that Hilltop Club has struggled to overcome. Adding to the issue of competitors being newer and better located, the addition of student housing properties in the market created a glut of 3-bedroom and 4-bedroom product that resulted in Hilltop Club struggling to differentiate itself in such a competitive market. Hilltop Club has been forced to combat dwindling occupancy by lowering rental rates and relaxing application screening, which in turn led to the property to incur crime and other unwanted issues. All these factors have concluded in Hilltop Club's current low occupancy rate of 43%, by far the lowest purpose-built occupancy in the market, and the property's failure as a student housing community. Due to the oversupply of student-oriented housing units, as well as the growth and job creation in the Bowling Green area, which is likely to increase the need for workforce housing units in the area, Capstone sees a unique opportunity to acquire a failed student property and undergo a complete renovation and repositioning conversion process to deliver a new unit mix and operational structure that will appeal to conventional renters, including young professionals, university faculty, staff, and families. Capstone recognizes the strength of the Bowling Green conventional non-student housing market and believes there is a path through the renovations and rebranding to return the subject apartments to a position of respect and pride in the neighborhood. We have successfully tackled this issue in other markets by employing our proven bifurcation de-densification strategy. In fact, we recently finished a very similar renovation conventional conversion process of 2 other failed student housing properties, Landmark Tuscaloosa and Landmark Hattiesburg. Our specific plan for Hilltop Club will be to take all 108 4-bedroom units and bifurcate them, dividing the units to create a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, and a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom out of each 4-bedroom unit. This will be accomplished by adding a new entry door, new demising wall, and a new kitchen within the newly created living space for each unit type. For each 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom unit on the ground floor of each building, 4 per building, 36 in total, we will be bifurcating each into 2 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom units. For the remaining 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom units in each building, we will quote unquote steal a bedroom from an adjacent 3-bedroom unit by removing a wall, allowing us to create a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom unit with a master bedroom in one unit, leaving a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit with a larger master bedroom in the adjacent unit. Additionally, in every unit, we will replace all flooring with vinyl plank flooring, install new cabinets and granite countertops, new appliances, new lighting fixtures, new plumbing fixtures, new doors, and new bath and door hardware to include an electronic entry door lock. As a result of this unit conversion strategy, we will be creating units, causing the final count to rise to 362. However, the conversion strategy will result in a decrease in bedrooms at the property from 761 to 581. This means a reduction of 180 potential residents, lessening utility and traffic impact in the area. Capstone requests that the Planning Commission approve the proposed amended development plan conditions to all allow for 362 units at the property. If approved, Capstone is very confident in our ability to replicate our past success with student to conventional conversions at Hilltop Club. The end goal will be repositioning Hilltop Club from a failed purpose-built student housing property with an oversupply of high-density units into a modern, vibrant community that appeals to a broad range of renters seeking the benefits of living in newly renovated 1, 2, and 3-bedroom accommodations at a competitive price point in the growing Bowling Green market. Going on to the Focus 2030 category review, there were 9 items that staff evaluated, 2 of which comply and 7 of which are up to your determination. Those are LU 113, which deal with compatibility, LU 25 and LU 252. This body should determine if the proposed infill development will protect Bowling Green's older neighborhoods, including Allendale Heights, Shawnee Estates, and Thoroughbred Acres. HN1, HN13. If the proposal is a suitable infill project that will maintain or improve the existing character and pattern of development within the area. And HN21, HN4, if the proposal will promote a diversity of housing types in the area. So going back to page 1, I'm going to look at our points to consider. 1, the proposed development plan amendment remains consistent with the Plano high-density residential designation. 2, the proposed development plan amendment complies with the applicable criteria addressed in the site characteristics review and complies with the majority of the review criteria for site design. And number 3, this body should consider proposed development plan amendment if the proposed development plan amendment is compatible with the surrounding area. So that is all I have for the staff report. The applicants are on the call with us, and so I'm happy to answer any questions about the staff report, and I'm sure they can answer any other questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Ramsey. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Ms. Ramsey?
Monica, Tim Graham here. Could I ask a couple of quick questions, please?
Sure.
So I just want to clarify my understanding. This property, this is essentially a renovation of an existing property. Is that correct?
That is my understanding, sir. Yes.
Okay. And then the second question is, with this renovation, this question is really targeting parking. Is it your understanding that the net result would be a decreased need for parking or an increased need for parking?
Well, the parking for RM4 is bedroom based. So by decreasing number of beds, I mean, they would still have plenty of parking.
So if it's bedroom based, they've essentially increased their parking capacity in this development. Is that correct?
I would think that's fair to say. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Ms. Ramsey?
Is this going to become a gated community again where they're going to have security gates and everything like they did previously?
Commissioner Clark, I'm not sure about that. That may be a better question for the applicants.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else before we hear from the applicant? Thank you, Ms. Ramsey. We'll hear from the applicant.
Yes, thank you. Regarding the controlled access vehicular gate, that will remain. So it's actually not functional at the moment. Our plan is to get that back to functioning and serving the purpose it's there for.
This is Velma. Let me, I apologize. Let me swear you in and get your name and address, please.
Sure. Christopher Moran, Mouron, and we're at 402 Office Park Drive, Birmingham, Alabama, 35223.
Thank you, sir. And you swear to tell the truth before this commission?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions for the applicant, commissioners?
I would like to make a comment to the applicant. I commend you all for coming up here and trying to get this straightened out. This has become, quote unquote, a hellhole that my daughter used to live at, and she had to be released from her lease because of a couple of shootings and some other things that were going on. So I commend you guys for coming up here, and I so hope you can get this straightened up and this is successful for you all.
Well, thank you. We're optimistic that we can do just that. I often say in things such as this, it is the quintessential opportunity to turn lemons into lemonade.
Do we have any other questions from the commissioners for the applicant?
Mr. Moran, this is Commissioner Starks. I have a question. In the write-up, it indicates that the branding will be similar to Tuscaloosa and Hattiesburg. Could you talk a little bit about what type of branding and kind of describe it a little bit?
Commissioner, when you say branding, are you referring to the naming of the community?
Well, maybe I'm not sure what the word branding means in the write-up. Will it be similar to the developments in Tuscaloosa and Hattiesburg? I guess is my question.
It will be very similar finish from a renovation standpoint, and also from an operational standpoint. With the distinction being more leased by the unit, for example, versus what students are often used to, which is a lease by the bedroom structure.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, commissioners? Do we have any questions from anyone in the audience? No questions? Do we have any opposition to this request?
Let me just pause here just a second and ask again.
Yeah, I don't
If
want to
anybody
miss.
wishes to speak in the public, unmute yourselves. I thought I saw somebody maybe wanted to speak.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to overlook anyone.
Okay, must have just been a yawn.
Okay. No questions and no opposition. If there's nothing else, then I will ask for a motion, please, commissioners.
Make the motion to approve proposed general development plan amendment docket number 2021-01 DP based upon the testimony and documents presented as public hearing. Proposed general development plan amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with the objectives and the action items presented in the staff report. Further, also find that there have been major changes of an economic, physical, or social nature within the area of the property in question, and request that the findings of fact and recommendation include a summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witness this public hearing.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
A second, yes, ma'am, thank you.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Balance,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld,
Ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vogert,
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Runner.
Yes, ma'am. The motion carried. Thank you all. Item number 2, we are skipping to add down to the bottom of the agenda. So we'll go on to item 3, 2021-03 DP Magnolia Hills LLC has filed an application to amend the general development plan, the development plan conditions on tracts of land containing approximately 32.45 acres located at 0 Plano Rd, bounded by Scottsville Road and William Natcher Parkway. This property is zoned RM4, which is multifamily residential with a general development plan. And we will hear the staff report now.
Ms. Runner, this is Hamp Moore. If I might, I got a phone call from Chris Davenport just before 5 o'clock indicating that he had been detained in a court hearing. And I wanted to inquire if he has now made it to the hearing.
Hamp, I'm present and accounted for.
Thank you.
Thank you for that courtesy.
And see, I didn't know he was even missing, so there we go. Thank you. Thank you. And we'll have the staff report.
All right, thank you, Chair Runner. We had a pre-application conference on February 12th for the property you see outlined in, of last year, obviously, outlined in yellow. So it's been quite some time, but the applicants would like to amend the general development plan to decrease the number of permitted dwelling units from 300 to 170 and allow a mixture of housing types within the proposed development. So essentially, what they're requesting is to reduce the number of multifamily units and replace the majority of that with detached single-family homes. If you compare the existing binding elements for the single-family portion in the PUD for Magnolia Hills, the DPCs we're going to look at tonight for the proposed single-family section are similar to those. So we will get to that in just a second, but the proposed density with this change would be 5.24 dwelling units per acre. The proposed development plan remains consistent with the flume, and it's up to you all to determine if the proposed changes to the development plan are compatible with the surrounding area. Staff's noted that there is a mature tree line along the north and western property lines, and sinkholes are known to exist in the vicinity and within the development. On page 2 of your staff report, under the site characteristics review, the layout, lot sizes, and setbacks. The layout for the proposed subdivision is on the attached development plan. I guess I could get to that since I'm normally already there by this point. Sorry about that. Normally show you all the uses in the area, but we didn't get that far. I just skipped right over it. I guess I was too excited. Yeah, here are the uses in the area: agricultural uses, single family, multifamily, commercial, public institutional, kind of a mixture. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. The setbacks will adhere to the standards set forth in the zoning ordinance for RM4 and RS1D. So you see this is color coded here. Some sections are proposed to be for multifamily, some for single family, but we can look at that a little more specifically here in a second. Just noting natural features, we've already mentioned the mature tree line and the sinkholes. Prime farmland, the property is comprised of 3 different soil types, one of which is classified as farmland of statewide importance. Under site design and compatibility review, the surrounding density. Densities in the surrounding area range from 0.84 dwelling units per acre to 15.66 dwelling units per acre. The current approved density for the development is 9.24 dwelling units per acre, and this amendment would include a density, as I already stated, of 5.24 dwelling units per acre. Surrounding architectural features, a mixture of 1- and 2-story structures in the area. The DPCs for the existing single-family structures in Magnolia Hills require a minimum of 1,000 square feet heated, cooled living space, exclusive of garages and porches. Building materials review. The current development plan conditions for single-family development in Magnolia Hills state that the exterior of all residences and other structures shall consist of brick, stone, driveway, cement siding, man-made stone, vinyl, hardy, or other modern masonry materials. At least 30% of the exterior shall be comprised of brick or hardy board on the entire exterior. Brick, stone, man-made stone, or split-face block shall extend to grade for residences. Building orientation, multifamily structures along Plano Rd should face Plano Rd and adhere to Plano focal point plan policies. Landscaping and screening, those would adhere to the zoning ordinance requirements, including between incompatible uses and in accordance with the Plano focal point plan. Proposed open space, the development incorporates a community clubhouse and a pool. Connectivity, a stub street connection is required to the west. Topographical issues limit a stub street connection to the east. The development will also connect with the portion of Magnolia Hills already under development, zoned PUD. Not pedestrian, bicycle, or transit facility sidewalks are required within the development. So since this property does fall within the Plano focal point plan, staff evaluated 11 applicable policies for this property, and all of them were in compliance, but there was one left up to your all's determination, and that is policy number 9, which vinyl may be permitted on a limited basis. No more than 30% of homes within subdivisions encompassing 10 lots or more should have a front facade constructed of 100% vinyl. Facade variation among homes in the same block is also encouraged. Staff noted there that none of the residences are proposed to be constructed with a front facade containing 100% vinyl. Facade variation was not addressed by the applicants, so the Planning Commission should determine compliance with that policy number 9. So with these development plan conditions, we'll go on to that. So the portion in gray there that you're looking at, that's 5.45 acres. In your staff report, you see that there have been some strike throughs and some underlinings. I'll just go over those, and then we'll look at the development plan conditions that apply to the rest of the development. So number 2, as a proposed change, signage will be limited to directional signs and one monument style entrance sign not to exceed 5 feet in height and not exceeding strike 60. Add 32 square feet of sign face. Each building will have signs denoting which building it is. Number 3, the building shall not exceed strike 30. Add 56 multifamily residential units with a maximum of 16 units per building. The maximum building height will be strike 3, add 2 stories. Number 4, that was stricken and replaced with outdoor parking of trailers, campers, boats, and recreational vehicles will be prohibited. Number 5 was stricken. Number 6, dwelling units constructed on lots having frontage on Plano Road shall be designed with the front facade facing Plano Road or be designed to appear to face Plano Road regardless of the location of any entrances to the building. It has been added, no parking shall be allowed within the building setback along Plano Road, and parking shall be located to the side and rear of buildings when possible. Number 7, the exterior of multifamily units shall consist of brick, stone, drivite, cement siding, man-made stone, vinyl, limited to 50% for each unit, hardy or other modern masonry materials. Added language, no split-faced or plain-faced block shall be allowed. Number 8, that was moved elsewhere about the parking of trailers and so forth. Number 8 had some language removed and then starts with all lot owners within the property shall be required to join and participate financially in the strike neighborhood association. Add Magnolia Hills Homeowners Association Incorporated. And then the additional language below that was stricken. Number 9, the developer, strike, and neighborhood association. Add Magnolia Hills Homeowners Association Incorporated. We'll specify a uniform color scheme for all buildings to be uniform in appearance, no more than 1 brick color or 1 vinyl color, 1 roof color, and uniform window and trim color. There will be a maximum of, added language, 2 building plans for 16-plex buildings. And then the rest of this already was there, 3 building plans for 8-plex buildings and 1 building plan for 4-plex buildings by the developer neighborhood association. Number 11 had some language stricken and then added, sinkholes detected on the property prior to or during construction will be replaced or protected with a sinkhole structure using methods approved by the Public Works Department and or certified or overseen by qualified engineers. Number 12 was stricken about a landscape buffer. Added language, previous binding elements recorded in deed book 1155, page 49 of the Warren County Clerk are hereby replaced by these development plan conditions. So again, that is just for the portion in gray. If I'm looking at this correctly. So the remainder, 27.03 acres, have 15 development plan conditions. Number 1, all units will be located underground and there will be uniform street lights. Number 2, each dwelling unit shall have a minimum of 1,000 square feet heated, cooled living space, exclusive of garages and porches. Number 3, outdoor parking of trailers, campers, boats, and recreational vehicles be prohibited. Number 4, the exterior of all residences and other structures shall consist of brick, stone, drivite, cement siding, man-made stone, vinyl, LP smart siding, hardy, or other modern masonry materials. At least 30% of the exterior shall be comprised of brick or hardy board on the entire exterior. Brick, stone, man-made stone, or split-face block shall extend to grade for residences constructed within the development. No plain-face block shall be allowed. No non-single family structure shall contain exposed split-faced or plain-face block. Number 5, the maximum number of residential lots will be 114. Each single-family dwelling unit shall have a minimum 1-car attached garage and a driveway of at least 18 feet in width. Number 6, all driveways shall be constructed of concrete. Number 7, all lot owners within the property shall be required to join and participate financially in the Magnolia Hills Homeowners Association, LLC. Number 8, the developer shall be responsible for maintaining all common open space for the single-family residences until at least 50% of the lots have been developed and sold to third parties. At that time, the developer may transfer ownership and maintenance responsibility to the neighborhood association. Number 9 deals with trash collection. Number 10 deals with lighting. Number 11 deals with the landscape buffer, which was stricken in the last portion, but it's applicable here with the rest of this acreage, since it did not apply to the gray part. Landscape buffer along the northeast and northwest boundaries of the development. Number 12 states that development plan conditions 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7 will remain conditions until a subdivision plat or separate declaration of restrictions is recorded, and they'll no longer be development plan conditions. Number 13 addresses the sinkholes like the other. Number 14 deals with the access. And number 15, again, just says that those previous development plan conditions are replaced by these. So again, that is for the remainder of the development in the yellow, blue, and red. Below that, you have the zoning ordinance requirements for amending the general development plan. The applicants submitted the following narrative to address those findings. They said a strong and unanticipated economic demand for single-family residences in this area has precipitated the owner applicant's request and justifies its approval. Under the Focus 2030 category review, staff evaluated 20 items, 9 of which comply and 11 of which are up to your determination. Those are LU 113, if the proposal is compatible with the area. LU2 and LU21, if the proposed amendment will result in high quality development that will protect the character of the area. Generally complies with LU211 or 213, as the applicants have incorporated a clubhouse and pool that will serve Magnolia Hills. LU252, if the proposed infill development is compatible with the surrounding area. Generally complies with LU28, which deals with those policies from the Plano focal point plan. There was that one policy left up to your all's determination. HN1, HN13, if the proposal is a suitable infill project that will maintain or improve the existing character and pattern of development within the area, and if it will strengthen nearby neighborhoods. And HN21 and HN4, if the location of the planned development is suitable for the proposed housing type, and if the proposed residences are believed to enhance the array of housing options available in the area. So I will go back to page 1 where we have our points to consider. Number 1, the proposed amendment remains consistent with the flume and the mixed use commercial future land use category. Number 2, the proposed development complies with the majority of the site characteristics review criteria. Number 3, the proposed development plan amendment complies with the majority of the review criteria for site design and meets the minimum requirements of the zoning ordinance. And number 4, this body should determine if the proposed development plan amendment is compatible with the surrounding area. So that is all I have for the staff report. And you've already seen that the applicants are represented here this evening. And so I'm sure either of us could answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Ramsey. Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Ramsey?
Monica, I have a couple of questions, if I may. On page 3 of the staff report, paragraph 3, when you were reading through this, you alluded to facades, but it may have just, you may have been using that term generically. So just allow me to clarify if I could. Mm-hmm. Paragraph 3 states that at least 30% of the exterior should be comprised of brick hardy board, or hardy board, I should say, on the entire exterior. Mm-hmm. It doesn't allude to the front facade. Is that also your understanding, or was there something about the front facade that I do need to pay attention to?
What are you talking about? Where the building materials review section?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Graham, that is only applying to the existing development plan conditions for the single family development in Magnolia Hills. So that's just stating what is already there for the adjacent portion.
Okay, I think
Not-
I
not-
understand. But number 4 in the new plan conditions
Mhm.
essentially mirrors that. Is that correct? So once again, they say at least 30% shall be comprised of brick, hardy board, etc. Is it the intent for those two to be essentially the same?
That is my understanding, that with this all being within the same development, that it's to complement. Mr. Davenport may have more to elaborate on that, but that is my understanding, that it's to make those development plan conditions similar.
Perfect. And then my last question is, it says, since they're reducing the density, the real need for this hearing is to change the binding elements. Is that correct? If they kept the binding elements the same, they could just reduce the density and move on, could they not?
Yes, single family development is allowed in RM4. You can have that, but yes, with the changes that they have proposed, which is really kind of an overhaul of what the original plan was, it necessitates this development plan amendment.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Ms. Ramsey before we hear from the applicant?
Are they doing away with the community pool and the recreation area?
Commissioner Clark, it is my understanding that those are to remain.
Okay, because in number 4, they changed the lighting for that. I thought, well, maybe they were just taking it away. Why are we taking out the lighting for those specific areas?
Mr. Davenport may want to speak more to this, but I believe.
Yeah, I can explain that, Monica, if you want me to.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Commissioner Clark, the reason for that is, the reason you don't see it in the first set is because that first set of DPCs will be applicable to, if you look at your screen, this gray area. The community pool and club area and all that is in the red area, which is subject to the second set of DPCs. So you will find that requirement in the second set, because that's the set that's applicable to that piece of real estate.
Madam Chair, if we're going to go ahead and go to the developer, do you need to get him sworn in?
Attorney.
Well, if Mr. Davenport is answering for him, we're okay, but if you have a question specifically for the developer, yes, we can do that.
I'm sorry, for Mr. Davenport.
Yes, yeah, since he's the attorney, we don't need to swear him in. So you can go ahead and
I see,
answer the
okay.
question. Yes, sir.
So Chris, as I seem to always do, could you go to DPC number 4, and I just want to eliminate any contradictions here. You've done a great job, and you've laid out that no plain face block shall be allowed, and no, no exposed split face block shall be allowed. But in the sentence prior to that, it says man-made stone or split face block shall extend to the grade for residences constructed within the development. So that in my reading of that, that's a contradiction. And so if that is a contradiction, could we remove split face block from that previous sentence?
I don't think it is, Commissioner Graham, because the prohibition is on plain face block, not on split face block.
Well, so the last sentence says, no non-single family structure shall contain exposed split face block or plain face block.
Yeah, the key there is the no non-single family structure. So the multifamily structures will not be allowed to have any split faced or plain face block. The single family structures can have split face block that extends to the grade, but cannot have any plain face block. And I'll tell you that those restrictions are worded that way because those are identical to the development plan conditions in the neighboring, in 2017, we zoned PUD. Those are the restrictions, and that's, and I guess, Monica, if you can go to the very first page of this on the slideshow, I think I can, maybe the next page. There was one that shows the development next door that's already underway. This is perfect, okay? So those single family residences have that same restriction of no split or no plain face block, but with split face to grade. And so that DPC, and because this zoning is remaining RM4, and there are some multifamily structures on it, that's why, and I know it does read, it's a bit confusing. But the point here is the single family residences will be identical to those in the other half of the subdivision, and the multifamily will not allow either type of block.
Okay, so if you'll indulge me just for a moment.
Sure.
The DPC number 4 does not distinguish, by my reading, between multifamily and single family. So just from a layperson's perspective, if I were reading this and trying to enforce it, how would I know what those DPCs are pertaining to?
Well, I would suggest this. If I'm looking at beginning with the word brick in the fourth line, brick, stone, man-made stone, or split face block shall extend to the grade for residences constructed on the development.
Okay.
Okay, that is applying. And then it says no plain face block shall be allowed. So we know that no plain face block can be allowed anywhere in the development, regardless of the structure.
Okay.
At this point, we believe that split face block is allowed if it goes to grade. And then when we read the last sentence, however, no single family structure shall contain exposed split face block or plain face block. That last sentence, when you read all those together, I would argue, and I believe.
Yeah, it does say non-single family structures. So I agree with you there. As you read it in its entirety, I do think it does a good job.
If I had any hair, it may be hurting if I tried to read that. I agree it's a bit confusing, but I do think it accurately does what the developer wants to do. And that is it prohibits either plain or split face block in multifamily structures, and it allows the same foundations for single family structures that are allowed in the rest of the development.
Okay, so if we could go back to page 3, the third paragraph, I think this is this what you're trying to mirror?
On page 3 of the staff report.
Page 3 of the staff report, the third paragraph. Is that taken from the adjoining property?
It is, and if you read, it's the same sentence here. Brick, stone, man-made stone, or split face block shall extend to grade for residences. The issue is that DPC in the other part of the development only applies to single family because the PUD only allows single family. So then when we add that to this new section, we need to clarify and we further prohibit either of those block for multifamily structures.
Got it. Makes perfect sense. Last question is regarding clarity on the 30% requirement. The DPC does not refer to facade. It simply says 30%. Is that your intent?
And when this was being discussed earlier, I kind of recall this coming up at the hearing in 2017 somewhat. They do not intend to have 100% final front facades. And if I remember, I think this was discussed and the developer talked about the fact that, you know, if you're going to have a minimum of 30% brick, stone, or hardy, you obviously want to have that in the facade. So it's just not something I guess I really thought that was necessary, but their intention is not to have 100% vinyl facades.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
May I clarify one thing before we move on really quick? If we go back to the preliminary development plan, Monica, I believe it can be simplified in saying that the last sentence for proposed DPC number 4 would essentially only be applicable to the red area because the yellow and the blue shaded areas are single family.
Correct. And so I guess I believe they've accurately pointed out the difference here, but typically we're going to see that as a different zoning or something, and it's an easier distinction than what we have before us. But if I were trying to enforce this, if I read it all the way through, I think I understand it. If we could add clarity to it probably and be helpful as well.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask one quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
We're trying to do away with saying neighborhood association and calling it homeowners. In number 10, do we need to change the wording of the last sentence to say homeowners association instead of neighborhood association there?
We can do that, Commissioner Clark. I may have missed one. One thing that you may have noted is that we got rid of the general neighborhood association and put in Magnolia Hills homeowners because since 17, that's been incorporated. We now have an actual name for it. So it's my intention that anywhere it says you've got to join a homeowners to specifically reference the Magnolia Hills Homeowners Association Incorporated. So I may have missed one. Which one are we talking about?
Finding element number 10, the last sentence, where it talks about the 50%, then it said at that time.
Yeah, I see it. So yeah, I mean, I'm perfectly fine with changing neighborhood association to Magnolia Hills Homeowners Association, Inc.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions from the commissioners to the applicant? Do we have anyone in the audience that would like to ask a question?
Yes, ma'am, I would.
Yes, if you would state your name and address for us, please.
My name is Dina Sabley. I live at 864 Star Avenue. We are homeowners in one of the original streets already built in this subdivision.
Yes, ma'am. You swear to tell the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you very much. You can go ahead and ask your question, please.
Okay, so in the new section that is on the agenda tonight, to have it restructured, there was a reading about no commercial vehicles are allowed to be parked in the neighborhood. Is that correct?
I think there's a restriction against the parking of trailers and
campers and boats.
Okay, well, we currently have a tractor truck that goes to a tractor trailer, a semi, that is parked at the end of our street. We think that one of the homeowners is the driver of it. Does that apply to the original section that has already been built?
Tonight, the only thing that's at issue tonight is the approval of these conditions for this area. So, nothing we're doing tonight changes, alters, amends, or affects any of the restrictions on your home, ma'am.
If I may just respond to that for a second, my suggestion would be to call the Bowling Green Public Works Department so they can enforce that. That is now a public street, I believe. So they would be the enforcement arm. They are the police, but they can get you in touch with who you need to speak with concerning that on-street parking.
Okay, and the only reason I'm asking is because if it's gonna be something set in stone for the new addition, then we would like to know what the rules and regs are for the current homeowners that are here, because we don't want two conflicting sets of rules. We want it to be across the board, and we would like, if that's something that is in place for this section of the neighborhood, we would like for it to be enforced, and we just need to know who we need to talk to.
So to speak directly to that, ma'am, I think it is the developer's intent to make those uniform, and hopefully staff has been able to direct you to someone that could help you with enforcement.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have anyone else in the audience that would like to ask a question? Do we have any opposition to this request? No other questions? No opposition? I'll ask for a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed zoning, the proposed general development plan amendment, docket number 2021-03 DP, based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing. Proposed general development plan amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with the objectives and action items presented in the staff report. Further, I also find that there have been major changes of economic, physical, or social nature within the area of the property in question, and I request that the finding of fact and recommendation include a summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren,
Ma'am.
Commissioner Ballots,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Chair Runner.
Yes, ma'am. And again, the motion carries. We thank you all. Next item, docket number 2021-05 Flume. Aaron and Courtney Davenport have filed an application for a future land use map amendment on a portion of tracts of land containing approximately 3.06 acres located at 0 Fuqua Rd, bounded by Blue Level, Providence Road, and Browning Road, from agriculture to rural density residential. Also, those same applicants, docket number 2021-07Z County, have filed for a rezone of that same land from agriculture to residential estate with a general development plan. So we'll hear the staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair Runner. We had a pre-application conference on December 21st for this property outlined in yellow, which currently is zoned agriculture. Its current use is agriculture, as is much of the area around it, with some single family and vacant tracts. And future land use map, also agriculture, which the applicants are proposing to change to rural density residential. If both these applications are successful, the intent is to create 3 single family residential lots, as you see here. The proposed density as a result will be 0.98 dwelling units per acre. The proposed RE zone is listed as a potentially compatible zoning designation in the rural density residential flume category, and may be appropriate if this body determines that the proposed development is compatible with the surrounding area. Staff has noted that there are adequate facilities and infrastructure available to support the proposed development, with considerations noted regarding road width. We'll look at that more in just a second. If you look there on page 2, you have the future land use map designations there, as well as the procedures for amending the future land use map. The applicants reference their development plan conditions with their zone change application to address those criteria to amend the future land use map, which we will read in just a moment. Under the site characteristics review, layout, lot size, and setbacks, just noting that the setbacks would adhere to the RE standards, with the exception of a 50-foot front yard setback that the applicants have agreed to. Transportation infrastructure. We have noted that the applicants have communicated to staff that the width of the road at the site is 18 feet. Planning Commission staff measured the road and found the pavement width to be approximately 17 feet with a 1-foot shoulder on both sides. Going down the list here, prime farmland, the properties contain a soil type that is classified as prime farmland. Soil suitability, a large portion of one of the proposed lots and about half of the other 2 proposed lots contain a soil type that is classified as very limited regarding soil suitability for septic tank absorption fields. The remaining half of the other 2 proposed lots does not contain a soil type that is classified as limited as soils regarding soil suitability. Floodplains and wetlands, there are no floodplains or wetlands located on the properties, but the soil characteristic listed for one of the soil types present on the properties is frequently flooded. On page 3, where we have the site design and compatibility review, surrounding density within a quarter mile of the properties, densities range from 0 to 1.76 dwelling units per acre, with a median density of 0.12 dwelling units per acre. Again, that proposed density is 0.98 dwelling units per acre. Surrounding architectural features within a quarter mile, the majority of homes are 1 story, but range from 1 to 2 stories in height. Other taller agricultural buildings are also located in the vicinity. The majority of homes do not have a garage. Home sizes range from 644 square feet to 2,975 square feet, with a median home size of 1,542 square feet. Building materials review within a quarter mile, 77% of homes have a vinyl exterior, with the remainder being a mixture of brick, concrete siding, masonite, and metal. The most prevalent foundation type is plain face block, followed by split face block, with the remainder being an almost even mix of brick, stone, and post and pier. Building orientation, the majority of homes on Fuqua Road have a front facade oriented to face Fuqua Road. Going on to the development plan conditions, there are 6. The applicants stated, number 1, any new residence constructed shall be a minimum of 1,500 square feet conditioned space, not including unheated garages or porches. Number 2, any new residential building shall be constructed of vinyl, brick, stone, or cement-based siding, wood, or aluminum siding. Foundation shall be constructed of concrete or non-plain face block. Plain face block shall be prohibited as a visible finished material in the principal structure. Number 3, any new residence constructed shall face Fuqua Road. Any new access point shall be coordinated with and approved by the Warren County Public Works Department. Number 4, the Health Department shall perform a site evaluation for any new residence prior to the issuance of a building permit. Number 5, any existing mature trees on the property shall be preserved to the greatest extent possible. And number 6, the minimum front setback shall be 50 feet. Going on to the Focus 2030 category review, staff evaluated 11 items, 3 of which comply, 8 of which are left up to your determination. Those are LU 111 and 112. Proposal may comply with the flume and those 2 items if deemed compatible with the surrounding area. The flume amendment is approved, and if the Planning Commission determines that the proposal complies with LU 113, dealing with compatibility. LU2, if the proposal is a high quality development that will protect the character of the area. NCR 24, if the proposed flume amendment and development will preserve the agricultural landscape along Fuqua Road. NCR 241, again, just noting the pavement width. So the Planning Commission should determine if the proposed development will result in an increased amount of development pressure on the countryside. HN21, HN4, if the location of the planned development is suitable for the proposed housing type, and if the proposed residences are believed to enhance the array of housing options available in the area. Going back to page 1, we have some points to consider. This body should consider if the proposed flume amendment meets the criteria outlined in LU 114 of the comp plan. If approved, the proposed zone change would be consistent with the flume and rural density residential category. The proposed development complies with the majority of the site characteristics review criteria with considerations noted regarding road width. The proposed general development plan complies with the majority of the review criteria for site design and meets the minimum requirements in the zoning ordinance. And this body should determine if the proposal is compatible with the surrounding area. So that is all I have for the staff report. I believe the applicants are with us, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Ms. Ramsey. Commissioners, you have questions?
So this question may be generally for staff. It just helps me understand. So as I look at the flume, if I look at the existing flume, it is agriculture. Yet when I look at existing zoning, there's a lot of RE. Help me understand why there's so much RE currently in an agriculture flume. And literally across the street, there's 2 REs, for example.
May let Rachel take a crack at that one.
All right, perfect.
Commissioner Graham, I don't know if you recall or if you were on the commission back in 2014. I'm losing track of my years here. But back in 2014, the Planning Commission converted several non-conforming ag parcels in the county to RE because of their lot size. And so the parcels you see on the zoning map were not recently rezoned in that they were newly created lots. They were simply converted and already existing in their current form in 2014. So that is
almost
kind of
grandfathered in, so to speak then.
Yeah, at the time they would have been grandfathered in because they wouldn't have met the minimum lot size requirements in ag. And that's why they were converted to RE to then make them legally conforming lots based on their size. But I can see where when you look at the zoning and then in coordination with the future land use map, how that could be a little misleading.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, commissioners? No questions? Then we'll hear from the applicant. Is there anything that you would like to add?
Nope. Thank you.
Got a no? Okay. We'll see if we have anyone in the audience. Do we have any questions for the applicant or staff? Anyone in the audience?
Yes, I have a couple of questions.
Yes, if you would state your name and address for us, please.
Sure. My name is William Bruson. I live at 1294 Fuqua Rd.
And you swear to tell the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. You can go ahead and ask your question.
All right. If I can get a couple of pictures posted for you to look at. The area that's proposed for development has a history of flooding and during normal, moderate, and heavy rain. And we see this several times a year, if not more. I don't know if you can get if you have the pictures. We can't get them up right this minute. I'll just keep talking. My concern is how will the addition of 3 culverts for the driveways of the 3 homes impact the runoff? The culverts are smaller in diameter than the ditch. Won't this cause more water flow over the road? We have significant water flow over that road to begin with, and it's even posted with signs that says, you know, impassable during high water. So I'm just wondering, by reducing water flow with culverts, you know, how are we going to address this situation?
Is that something, is the applicant present that would like to answer that question, or?
Jim, do you want to answer that?
Is that Mr. Adams, Jim Adams?
Yes.
Yes, if you'd state, are you with us, sir? This is Velma Runner.
I had to figure out how to unmute.
If you would state your name and address, please.
In the, Jim, state your name and address. Oh.
I need to get you sworn in. I apologize.
All right. Name and address. James Adams, 1537 Allen Way, Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Thank you, and you swear to tell the truth, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You can go ahead and answer the question. Thank you.
When Aaron will apply for a building permit for those, the county has the right to ask them to have an engineer size that culvert because of the drainage problem that you're at. In this situation, if the county sees that he needs a larger culvert than a standard 15-inch pipe, they can require him to put that in. So that would be handled at the building permit when he goes down and gets his building permit.
And could I further clarify that with staff? So this is a general question for staff, and this may help clarify this question. Is it fair to say that at the building permit stage, drainage will be reviewed, and that that someone will make requests to install adequate draining for all of these lots?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, I have a few more.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Okay, the adjoining property is higher than ours, and we already have issues with runoff all the way from the backyard to the front yard. And we have a constant battle of water erosion in our driveway. How is the construction going to affect runoff, since our property is level, or if not lower than the proposed development?
Does someone from staff want to answer that for them?
Again, it's probably better for Mr. Adams to answer that, but generally it's the same thing. The drainage will be addressed on the building permit by Warren County Public Works and their stormwater division. And then there's the general rule that you're not allowed to make things worse for your neighbor. You can't put any more water on them post-development than there was pre-development. And then, hopefully during the construction process, things improve, not get worse. But there is the general rule that you have to, you can't make things worse than they currently are on your neighbor.
Okay, and a couple additional questions. I wish I could get that photo up for you to see, because it's a lake at times. How are you going to accommodate 3 septic systems in such a small area? Our beach bed consists of 3 branches covering approximately, I'm going to guess, about 3/4 of an acre, just for our septic system. And so how will this be accomplished, with the water issues on those proposed 1-acre lots?
Well, that will come from the health department. I mean, each lot is an acre of size. So that is the minimum requirement for that. So that'll have to come from the health department.
Right. So okay. Will the health department be conducting perk tests or deep hole tests on the undisturbed soil? Because you can't add soil to accommodate a septic system, correct?
That is correct, and they will do perk tests on undisturbed soil, and then once the area is designated for the septic system, not only that, but the builder will need to protect that area so that the soil isn't compacted from the surface as well. But any experienced builder knows all of those things and knows what they have to do in order to get that septic system approved. So just to further clarify,
right,
this hearing tonight simply gives that developer and or builder an opportunity to apply for permits. It doesn't mean that they're going to be approved. It simply gives them an opportunity to apply. They still have to cross all of these hurdles in order for them to build. Hurdles meaning the septic system, drainage system.
Right. I know you got to dot I's and cross all your T's, but I'm just really concerned about that land. I would hate to, have somebody buy that land not knowing of, the ramifications of the swamp that occurs, many times throughout the summer. What type of home construction is he planning on, and does he plan on living in one of those homes?
Him living in it is not for our discussion. Okay. I think if you look at the general developments, they talk about a minimum square feet of $1,500, or 1,500 square feet, and then it constructed of vinyl, brick, stone, and cement-based siding, wood or aluminum.
What are the plans for future development on the other property other than that 3 acres?
Well, all we're here is talk about that tonight, I think.
Okay. All right, well, I guess I don't have any other questions at this time.
Thank you, sir. And thank you all. Do we have anyone else with questions or comments? Do we have opposition to this request? No further questions. I'll ask for a motion, please.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yes, I'm in opposition of this.
You have opposition, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Make the motion to approve the proposed future land use map amendment docket number 2021-05 Flume based upon the testimony and documents presented as public hearing. Proposed Flume amendment has met the directive to amend the Flume as outlined in LU 114 in the comprehensive plan. Further request this motion includes a summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses public hearing.
Thank you, sir. Get a second. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Balance,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Beaufort,
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Runner.
Yes, ma'am. The motion was successful. That carried. So now we can address the zone change request.
Make the motion to approve the proposed zoning map amendment together with and conditioned upon the general development plan docket number 2021-07Z County based upon the testimony and documents presented as public hearing. Proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by the compliance with the objectives and action items presented in the staff report. Further, proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further request this motion includes a summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses public hearing.
Thank you, sir. A second. Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Balance,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Beaufort,
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Runner.
Yes, ma'am. The motion carried. Our recommendation will be for approval. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And as I stated earlier, we are going to skip number 6 and add him at the bottom of tonight's agenda. So number 7 is 2021-09Z County. Scotty's Construction and Stone LLC has filed an application to rezone a portion of a tract of land containing approximately 23.89 acres located at a portion of 2098 Barren River Road from heavy industrial with a general development plan and ag and floodplain to heavy industrial and floodplain with a general development plan. So now we'll hear the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Runner. We had a pre-application conference on July 8th of 2020 for the property you just outlined located on Barren River Road. If you bear with me, I'm trying to get to the slides here. I have to skip ahead. All right, here we go. So you'll see the property, the portion of the property subject to this application this evening is outlined in yellow. There have been 2 previous rezoning applications on this same property. The first in 2008 and another in 2011. And so the proposal this evening would add to that existing acreage and bring everything under one development plan and one set of development plan conditions. The future land use designation for the property is industrial. You can see a portion of the property is also located in the floodplain. The proposal is compliant with the future land use map. Going to jump on to the next page of the staff report on page 2. Under our site characteristics review section, I'll just touch on the proposed layout here. You'll see on this slide here the proposed expansion with some landscape berm considerations also noted on the proposed site layout. And then we've also, again, noted that a portion of the property is located within the floodplain and is proposed to be removed via a Lomar F application after completion of fill placement, which is noted on this same exhibit. Under building materials review, staff has noted that industrial buildings in the vicinity are a mixture of split face block, metal, and brick. The existing building on the property is metal and painted split face block. Under landscaping and screening, the existing binding elements approved in 2008 require an earthen berm along McFarland Lane with a mixture of vegetation types to the extent necessary to screen the property from view and from McFarland Lane. And the proposed development plan conditions do maintain this same requirement. Moving on to the proposed development plan conditions, the applicant submitted 9. Number 1 prohibits access to McFarland Lane. 2 addresses access to Barren River Road. 3 addresses a maximum building size and building height. 4 looks at berm and landscaping requirements along McFarland Lane and other general landscaping requirements. 5 addresses lighting on the property and illumination for signage. 6 looks at considerations for freestanding signage on the property. 7 prohibits specific uses. 8 looks at building materials for future construction on the property. And 9 includes considerations for the portion of the property within the floodplain. Under the Focus 2030 category review, staff evaluated 9 items and found that 8 of those items were in compliance with the comprehensive plan. There was 1 item that the Planning Commission should evaluate for compliance, and that is LU 1.1.3. And the Planning Commission should determine if the proposal is compatible with the surrounding area. Again, this is an application to essentially consolidate the existing zoning on the property with an expansion of what would include everything that's on the screen within the boundaries shown before you this evening. And there would just be 1 set of development plan conditions for the entire property for the 23.89 acres. And the proposal does comply with the future land use map. The proposal complies with the majority of the site characteristics review criteria, the review criteria for site design, and meets the minimum requirements in the zoning ordinance. And again, compatibility should be determined by the Planning Commission. That is all I have for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Hurt. Commissioners, you have questions? No questions. Have anything the applicant would like to add?
Madam Chair, Kevin Brooks, attorney for the applicant. And I think maybe Chris Higgins with Scotty's Contracting is with us also. I don't see him on my screen. We are here to answer any additional questions you've got, but we don't really have anything to add and no new evidence other than what Ms. Hurd has already told you about.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any questions for the applicant, commissioners?
Kevin, do you think they're going to tear down that office that's there and build a new office or anything, or what is the plan?
No, I don't think there's any intention to tear that down or really change that in any way, at least not anytime soon. The development plan conditions do address what would happen if they did expand it.
Any other questions?
Kevin, this is Rick Starks. Under the site characteristics review, under floodplains and wetlands, A portion of the property located in the floodplain is proposed to be removed via LOMRF application. Could the applicant talk a little bit about that removal and how that will occur?
Mr. Higgins is an engineer, can answer that better than me, but I think it's a simple answer. So I'll see if I can answer it, Rick. When we filed this, there was a pending application to amend the flood map with FEMA. That has now happened. We are awaiting a letter confirming that, but I've been confirmed actually today by an email that they have approved that.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Sir.
Do we have any questions from anyone in the audience?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, if you'd state your name and address for us, please.
Curry Milliken, 681 McFarland Lane, Bowling Green, Kentucky.
And you swear to tell the truth, sir?
I do.
Thank you. You can go ahead and ask your question, please.
Mine is really a concern. I live approximately 200 or 300 yards downstream on Barren River from the subject property, and my property butts to Barren River. The proposed change abuts both Jennings Creek, which almost immediately flows into Barren River, and also butts Barren River. My concern is from an environmental standpoint, as far as possible runoff from this property into Jennings Creek and or Barren River. If you'll notice the map, you will notice the close proximity to Jennings Creek and the close proximity of the mouth of Jennings Creek to Barren River. My question really is, are these environmental concerns being addressed? And if so, how?
I'm gonna let Mr. Higgins answer that question.
Mr. Higgins, I'll get your name and address and we'll swear you in.
Chris Higgins, 528 Wildcat Lane, Russellville.
And you swear to tell the truth, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Milliken, this development is not going to get very much closer to Jennings Creek at all. We'll get a little closer to Barren River, not a large expansion over what we've already done, just some fill in the back. It will be a gravel lot, and there will be at times equipment parked there. Obviously, we hope there won't be any environmental concerns from there, but in the case that there is some sort of leak or spill or leak from a piece of equipment, it would be minor because there won't be any storage of any great volume other than a tank back in the back of this. So there are sediment basins and berms that will route the runoff into these before they would ever go into the river. And we will submit a final grading plan to the county for their review, and any concerns they have at that point, they will address and require additional measures on our part.
Thank you for responding to my concerns.
Yes, sir.
Do we have anyone else with question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Ronnie Meredith, 315 McFarland Lane, Bowling Green.
And you swear to tell the truth, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Kind of extending on Curry's question. Chris, are you planning to put a vinyl lining in the stormwater retention pond, or because right now, and we're the adjacent property owners to this development, right now we're actually getting some overflow from your current retention pond onto our land. And so, as Mr. Milliken stated, there are serious environmental concerns here being so close to the river, to Jennings Creek, and to us, actually, our property line. So can you explain to me what you guys are going to do with my understanding is you're going to move the current pond, and then are you going to line that, or what are you going to do?
So part of our development that is proposed will indeed fix all runoff going off the property. Any towards you will be trapped in ditches and sediment basins before it would ever be, before it would ever leave the property. And at that point, it would head in the depression that leads towards Jennings Creek. That goes through the middle of the field and the back. As far as lining our application, we don't expect any environmental hazards for our use for the property, so there won't be any lined ponds, but it will be treated for sediment removal before it leaves the site. And that applies to, you know, your property. You won't see any sediment, and also Jennings Creek.
Okay, you say there's going to be no lining, but do you all not wash out the trucks over there? And you know, washout has a very high pH level that is almost like Drano. So I'm very concerned if you're not putting a lining in the pond.
There is from the prior development in 2009 and 2010, there is a truck wash in the middle of the property. We want the additional zoning that's being proposed here wouldn't have anything like that on it. And the truck wash that's on the front of the property is for the beds at the end of the day, where they wash the rock and the dirt out. And all that sediment is trapped in the basin back there before it leaves the property.
Okay, and my next question would be relating to the berm. My understanding, the berm is going to be up against the the proposed parking lot. How tall are you all expecting above the height of the parking lot for this berm to extend?
It's approximately 12 feet above the height of the parking lot, and the parking lot will be about 35 feet above the existing grade.
Okay, and will there be trees and shrubbery?
There will, on both sides of the berm.
Yes.
There'll be trees and shrubbery to block the view from your property.
Okay, and the other thing that I'm not seeing that I think would help the people on McFarland Lane, as well as us, is that berm to wrap around the northeast and northwest corners of the proposed lot. The way I'm seeing it on the picture, it appears to just be one straight line kind of going west to east, I guess. Is it possible to wrap that around 10, 20 feet or so on each side?
We can do that, yes.
Okay. Okay, that's all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions from anyone in the audience? Do we have opposition to this request?
Yes, ma'am. Due to the environmental hazards, I cannot say to the city of Bowling Green, Warren County, the residents of McFarland Lane, I cannot agree to this.
Thank you, sir. We have opposition that is spoken. Any other questions, commissioners, before I call for a motion? Then I'll ask for a motion, please.
Then before we call for a motion, in their development plan condition, based on the last person's testimony, to expand the berm, or do we not include that?
Commissioner Warren, I believe that would be development plan condition 4 if we were going to make a change. That may already be on HAMP's radar.
Okay. Just want to make
It
sure.
sounds like we have agreement from the developer to make that change.
We do that. Currently, it just requires the berm to be adjacent or parallel to the property line, but we have no issues with extending the berm and the landscaping around the corner of the development so that we can shield a little more of the view from their property.
Lisa, did you agree to 20 feet? Is that approximately 20 feet? Should we put that distance in the development plan condition?
Yes.
Sorry, Dean, I didn't realize you were talking there. I got a little bit of delay on my end.
No, you're fine, Chris.
So do I understand correctly that you intend to extend the buffer from its current 50 feet in length to a total of 70 feet in length?
90 feet.
It would be 90, be 20 feet on both sides.
Okay. So 90 feet in length, and we're reading from DPC number 4. Is that correct? Yeah.
All of that's, I think, fine. Chris, I hope it is. The difficulty is sort of wordsmithing the direction. I mean, we're happy to do that. And if we've got the length right and we can just kind of be trusted to turn both ends, which I think is what we've been asked to do, then we certainly can do that. Chris, are we together on that?
Yes, it's just one end. It'll be because we're covered on the other end all the way up to Barren
It'll be
River.
the west end, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So if that's the case, Chris, do we have the right length? If it's only on one end, that only has 20 feet, not 40.
Right. I think I think it's almost a separate because the length of the berm will actually be even longer than 90.
So we're okay saying 90?
Yes.
And then we've just got goodwill that it's going to turn 20 feet on that end?
It's going to turn 20 feet. Yes, sir.
All right. Fair enough. Hamp, I'll let you wordsmith that.
Well,
Would it be worth noting it on the exhibit for visual reference to clarify what's intended?
That would help.
You mean to attach an exhibit to the DPCs? Is that what you mean?
Well, Kevin, right now on the exhibit, I tried to zoom in so everybody could have a clearer view. We've got the proposed berm outlined here. So
Right.
I didn't know if it would be worth actually shading the area that's intended to be extended for clarity.
Well, yeah, I think that's fine with us, but that exhibit is not attached to the DPCs, is it? I don't think. So if we want to have a
More accurate.
We could attach it. We could record it with the
could.
development plan conditions.
Yeah. So if we're gonna, and that's fine, and that'll make it really clear to everyone. If we can work with staff just a little bit to see what that exhibit looks like. I think we all understand the berm part, but there's a whole lot more stuff on there, and I don't know if all of that needs to be an exhibit to the DPCs. I get sensitive about that sometimes. Does that make sense?
It does. I think in development plan condition 4, if there were a way to reference the berm specifically as depicted on
Yes.
this exhibit to where it's only calling out the berm.
So we could say, that's fine. We can say, however many feet, 70 feet, or what, 90 feet, I guess is okay, Chris. And then just say as generally shown on the exhibit, and then we'll craft that exhibit to show that turn from a westerly direction to a southerly direction for the last 20 feet. Does that work?
I think that clarifies it, Kevin.
Yeah, I think so.
Ms. Martin, are you clear about what has been agreed upon?
Yes, I'll mark that it'll be as depicted on Exhibit A and wait for the Exhibit A from Mr. Brooks.
Right.
Okay. If nothing else, then I will ask for a motion.
I make the motion to approve the proposed zoning map amendment together with and conditioned upon the general development plan docket number 2021-09Z County. Based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with the objectives and action items presented in this staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further, I request that this motion include a summary of the evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Thank you, ma'am. We need a second.
Second.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Bockert,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren,
Ma'am.
Commissioner Balance,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Runner.
Yes, ma'am. The motion carried. Our recommendation will be for approval. And thank you all. Next
Thank
item,
you.
2021-10 ZVG, Southwest Developers LLC and Estates of Frank T. and John Beecham Wheeler have filed an application to rezone a portion of a tract of land containing approximately 19.58 acres located on a portion of 6309 Russellville Road from agriculture to light industrial with a general development plan. And we'll have a staff report.
Thank you, Chair Runner. We had a pre-application conference on December the 18th of 2020 for the property you just outlined, 19.58 acres located on a portion of the property. And this property should look familiar because back in 2019, a portion of the property was rezoned to single-family, multifamily, commercial, and light industrial. So this would kind of extend from what was already previously considered by this commission and approved back in 2019. I will note that there's a typo on page 1 of your staff report under proposed zoning. I believe it says HI, it should be LI. So I just wanted to note that on the record. The future land use designation for the property is mixed use commercial, and the request is compliant with the future land use map. Here you can see the proposed area to be rezoned shaded here in the central portion of the screen. And you can see the location of the proposed development also located in purple with building footprint and general parking areas shown for reference as well. You should also have a revised set of development plan conditions, I believe, that Ms. Martin should have forwarded along for your reference.
I had your email is that you were going to read it and note it. I apologize. I did not forward that.
Oh, okay. No problem. That's no problem at all. So I'll get to that in just a second. It's just one extra development plan condition. Everything else is the same as what you would have received in your packets. On the site characteristics review section of the staff report, again, this is the general development plan that was submitted. The area of the proposed development is shaded in purple. Under the cultural or historical features, staff has noted that the previously approved rezoning application for this property included considerations for the cemetery that's believed to be located on the property. Based on books that have been published with details about the property, the cemetery is the final resting place of the Richard Gladish family, the original occupants of the log cabins that used to be on the property. The applicants have included considerations for the Gladish family cemetery in development plan condition 10, and the cemetery board visited the farm last year and is willing to work with the applicants in order to find the cemetery's exact location so that it can be protected. I'm gonna jump down all the way under the site design and compatibility review section. Just wanted to touch on the pedestrian facilities. Noting that sidewalks are not required by the subdivision regulations in the light industrial zone. However, the development plan conditions for the portion of the property already zoned to light industrial require sidewalks on one side, and the applicants have also agreed to this same requirement to provide sidewalks on one side of the street for the portion of the property that's under your consideration this evening. Next, we have noted that this property is located in the Walnut Valley Focal Point Plan area. And we evaluated several of the policies from the focal point plan. I'm going to touch on the ones that are either not in compliance or those that the Planning Commission should evaluate for compliance. And the first one I want to reference is WV1B. And this states that a minimum of 50% of all required parking should be to the rear of the front building line for office, commercial, and multifamily development. Parking should not be located within any required building setback line. The general development plan must also provide for vehicular access and internal circulation to adequately support the operational needs of the development itself in a manner which maintains and protects the operational integrity of the community's major streets and highways. Further, the traffic circulation system should be designed in a manner which directs commercial traffic away from residential streets. So the new development plan condition that was submitted states the following. The property will be developed with at least 30% of the required parking located behind the front face of the building. Vehicle use areas in front of the building will be screened from the public street with landscaping exceeding the requirements of the zoning ordinance and enhanced by the addition of decorative masonry elements. And I believe we should have a visual to go along with that, so I'll turn to that slide so you can see that. And so now the new development plan condition proposed requires 30% of the parking to be located behind the front facade of the structure, but that still would not necessarily comply with this Walnut Valley policy because it's recommending a minimum of 50% of the parking to be located to the rear of the front building line. Next, going to touch on WV1C. Any project should be designed and developed in a manner that will not impair the reasonable long-term use of the property of nearby properties and fulfillment of the land use policies of this focal point plan and the comprehensive plan. Planning Commission should determine compliance with this policy. WV3A, to ensure the quality of commercial development in the focal point, minimum acceptable design standards should be established. All building exterior facades and materials should be reviewed by a committee of professionals such as architects, planners, and others. And the applicants did agree in development plan condition 9 that the front facades for structures on the property shall be developed with exteriors consisting of a minimum 50% stone, brick, cement board, EIFS, glass, or architectural panels. The Planning Commission should determine compliance with this policy. And last, WV3B, commercial zoning should be limited to PUD, office professional, neighborhood business, and general business. Light industrial is the proposed zone for this development and does not comply with this policy. So we did provide a compliance summary, and I will say with the addition to the parking considerations and screening requirements for WV1B, the Planning Commission should evaluate compliance with that policy. And so I guess under the compliance summary, then that would now have an asterisk where it would not have had an asterisk when the staff report was originally sent out. Next, we have section 314 from the zoning ordinance, which outlines the requirements for a traffic impact study. A traffic impact study was not required by the Bowling Green Public Works Department or the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. But the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet did request that the applicants agree to analyze the possible installation and construction of a reduced conflict U-turn or R-cut intersection to serve the proposed development. And the applicants did agree to this request in development plan condition 2. Moving on to the development plan conditions, there are now 11. So I'm not going to read the new conditions since we've already got that stated on the record, but I will go through the first 10. Number 1 looks at utility placement. 2 addresses transportation improvements. 3 outlines prohibited uses. 4 looks at uniform street lighting. 5 includes considerations for sinkholes. 6 addresses signage on the property and prohibits billboards. 7 looks at tree preservation. 8 sidewalk installation. 9 building materials. And 10 considerations for the cemetery. Next, the Focus 2030 category review. Staff evaluated 18 items and found 11 of those items to be in compliance. There are 7 items for the Planning Commission to consider and evaluate for compliance. The first of those, LU113, which looks at compatibility. LU2, quality of development and character preservation. LU28 and LU281, which reference the Walnut Valley Focal Point Plan. HN1 and HN1.3, compatibility and impact on existing character and pattern of development. And last, ED1, which looks at diversification of the local economy. Jumping back to the points to consider on page 1. First, the proposal is consistent with the future land use map. Second, the proposed development complies with the majority of the site characteristics review criteria and the review criteria for site design and meets the minimum requirements in the zoning ordinance. And last, compatibility should be determined by the Planning Commission. That is all for the staff report, but I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, questions for Ms. Hurd?
Do we have any idea what's going to be there?
The trucking terminal.
No other questions?
Yes, do we know when the approximate time of development may start?
Commissioner Starks, the applicants may be able to better answer that question.
Okay, thank you.
Are the applicants present?
We are here, Kevin Brooks for the applicants. I don't have a specific start date, but I would say soon, Mr. Starks. I mean, this year for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant? Did you have anything, Mr. Brooks, that you wanted to add?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Do we have any questions from anyone in the audience? Do we have opposition to this request? No questions, no opposition? Then I'll ask for a motion, please.
I make a motion to approve the proposed zoning map amendment together with and conditioned upon the general development plan, docket number 2021-10 ZBG. Based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with the objectives and action items presented in the staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further, I request this motion include a summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Thank you, sir. Need a second?
Second.
Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks, Commissioner Starks,
I think we lost it.
Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vogert,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren,
Ma'am.
Commissioner Balance,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Chair Runner.
Yes, ma'am. The motion carried. Our recommendation will
Ms.
be.
Runner,
Yes, sir.
I believe Rick Stark is back on.
Yeah, I got knocked off.
I'm
Got
so
knocked off.
sorry, I can't see. Commissioner Starks,
Yes,
thank you.
sorry about that.
No, thank you, sir. The motion carried, so our recommendation will be for approval. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Docket number 2021-06 Bloom, Mark Smith, and Dina Brooks filed an application for a future land use map amendment on tracts of land containing approximately 5.38 acres located at 3274 Sunnyside-Gotts Rd from agriculture to rural density residential. On docket number 2021-11 County, those same applicants have filed to rezone that same land from agriculture to rural residential and residential estate, both with general development plans. We'll have the staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair Runner. We had a pre-application conference on August 13th for the property you just outlined located on Sunnyside-Gotts Rd. And as you mentioned, there are two applications before you this evening. The first to amend the future land use map to rural density residential, and if that's successful, the second application would be for a zone change for from ag to RR and RE. Let me jump to the proposed subdivision. There is an existing house on what is referenced as Lot 1. And the proposal, if approved, would allow the subdivision into 2 lots for the construction of an additional single-family home. And I will mention one interesting piece of information about this particular request is that the proposed lots actually already exist by deed, but they were improperly and unknowingly transferred in violation of the current plat that's on record. So the purpose of this rezoning application is actually to allow the subdivision of the land currently described by deed and to allow construction of one additional home. So with that, I'm going to move on to the future land use map amendment reference from LU 1.1.4, which outlines the procedures to amend the future land use map. And the applicants included the following information with their application to address this criteria. It states, the proposed use is compatible with surrounding uses and structures and shall be protected as such with development plan conditions. These development plan conditions include items concerning building materials, size, and orientation, which match surrounding properties. Under the site characteristics, again, this is the proposed lot configuration. Setbacks would adhere to the requirements in the zoning ordinance for RE and RR. Under site design and compatibility review, surrounding density properties on Sunnyside-Gotts Rd are mainly agricultural with some rural density residential uses also mixed in. And there are also several rural density residential properties located on Bethel Lane. Under surrounding architectural features, within 1/4 mile of the property, there is a mixture of 1- and 2-story residential and agricultural structures. Minimum home sizes range from 929 square feet to 3,379 square feet with a median home size of 1,546 square feet. About 2/3 of the residential properties have an attached or detached garage or carport with space for at least 2 vehicles. Under building materials, staff has noted that the existing home is vinyl with a concrete block foundation. The majority of other homes within 1/4 mile are also vinyl. Several homes also have metal or brick exterior, and about half of the building foundations are plain face block, with the other half a mixture of brick, post and pier, and split face block. Moving on to the proposed development plan conditions, there were 7 submitted with the application. Number 1 addresses a minimum home size of 1,600 square feet. 2 addresses building materials. 3 prohibits mobile and manufactured homes. 4 addresses access to the property. 5 includes considerations for the preservation of existing vegetation. 6 includes considerations for on-site septic systems. And 7 requires that any new home constructed on the property have a front facade oriented towards Sunnyside-Gotts Rd. Under the Focus 2030 category review, staff evaluated 16 items and found 6 of those items to be in compliance. There were 2 items out of compliance and 8 items for the Planning Commission to evaluate for compliance. So first, LU 1.1.1, 1.1.2, and 1.1.3, which look at the future land use map and considerations for compatibility. Next, LU 2, quality of development and character preservation. Next, NCR 1.1 and 1.3, these are the 2 items noted that are not in compliance, which look at considerations for sinkholes. Next, NCR 2.4, which include considerations for the agricultural landscape. Next, NCR 241, which looks at development pressure on the countryside. And last, HN 2.1 and HN 4, which look at the suitability of the proposed housing type and the array of housing options in the area. Under the staff review summary, again, the proposal would, if approved, would help to clean up the existing issue with the lots that already exist by deed, and would allow the construction of 1 additional single-family home on proposed lot 2. Going back to our points to consider on page 1, the Planning Commission should consider if the argument provided by the applicants to amend the future land use map meets the criteria in LU 114 of the comprehensive plan. And if the future land use map amendment is approved, the proposal would be consistent with the FLUME and the rural density residential category. Second, the proposed development complies with the majority of the site characteristics review criteria, with exceptions noted regarding road width and sinkhole considerations. The proposed general development plan complies with the majority of the review criteria for site design and meets the minimum requirements in the zoning ordinance. And last, compatibility should be determined by the Planning Commission. That is all I have for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And I believe the applicants, I see that they are also on the line and could probably answer any questions as well.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Rachel, I do have a couple of questions, if I may. Could you elaborate on? I do understand that I think the term you used was this was transferred improperly, and I assume someone applied for a building permit, and then that's when the realization was that that we have this issue. Is that correct?
Yeah, the applicants may want to speak a little bit more to that. It is my understanding that the existing plat on record actually indicates 2 lots, but it does specifically say that one of the lots is not a building lot of record and is to be added to the adjacent tract. However, visually, when you just look at the plat, it does look like there are 2 lots of record, and so the deeds that were recorded reflect the plat, even though one of the lots is technically by plat not a building lot of record, but they have been transferred to 2 individual owners by deed.
Several
and
times.
It was not intentional, and it has occurred multiple times.
Yes.
So I guess my second question is, do we have any safeguards in place that would prevent this from happening in the future, or would at least catch this earlier in the process?
Ben may want to help address this, but to my understanding, it's really difficult, at least on our end, because we're not involved with the recordation of new deeds when property is transferred. And so we're not always, I mean, if we are made aware of it, it's always after the fact.
And I think I understand that. And Ben may want to speak to this more specifically, but it's my understanding, just from your description, almost anyone could record a deed and indicate that it's not a lot of record, and then that could be subsequently sold, and someone applies for a building permit on that particular lot, and we would possibly find ourselves in a similar situation. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So Ben, is there any way to deter that? Do we have any control there?
Well, I guess, and Hamp may want to speak to this after I do, because I'm going to blame it on attorneys that Untitled and not looking up the plats. But I think it was sometime in the 70s or 80s is when the requirement to have a plat with a deed on a property transfer came into effect in Kentucky. And it is routinely to have this KRS 100 violation, I guess is what I would call what I've routinely called it. So this is not an uncommon situation to have. A lot of times property, if it's already been platted, deeds change hands all the time and you don't have to do a new plat. So somewhere in that mix, it gets lost in the shuffle for these old lots. Sometimes that transfer hands without a plat, but then there's other times where, just didn't know any better, quit claim deed or a person-to-person deed that was recorded. Maybe attorney wasn't involved. So there's a variety of reasons. The deterrent is the law. It's the law. You have to have a plat now, but that doesn't prevent you from just going and recording something either. So it's maybe liken it to speeding. Speed limit's out there and against the law to break it, but sometimes you look down and you're breaking it unknowingly. So
without realizing
it's a common occurrence, and this application would clean one of those up.
Great, thanks, Ben.
I'm sorry, if I may. Can you all hear me?
Yes. Let me get your name and address. This is Velma Runner speaking. If I could get your name and address, please.
My name is Stephanie Henderson. My address is 2451 Hunts Bend Road.
And you swear
Bowling
to
Green.
tell the truth?
I'm sorry?
And you swear to tell the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'm representing Mark, and we used an attorney when we bought this property. This plat is very unusual. This has been an ongoing thing for several years. We've been back and forth with several questions as to how to get this straightened out, how it even happened when, you know, the plat even shows a 6th lot or refers to a 6th lot. If you look at the notes on the side don't match what the plat actually looks like. So that was kind of another thing. It refers to a lot 6 as well. Then there's not even a lot 6 on it. So it's very unusual. We're just trying to do what's best to get it straightened out for everybody. You know, it's been bought and sold, and the property next door to it's been bought and sold several times, and it was never caught. So we're wanting to get it fixed as well.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have anyone else with questions? Do we have any opposition to this request? No questions, no opposition. I'll ask for a motion, and the first will be for the Flume amendment.
Make a motion to approve the proposed future land use map amendment docket number 2021-06 Flume based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing. The proposed Flume amendment has met the directive to amend the Flume as outlined in LU 1.1.4 in the comprehensive plan. Further, I request that this motion include the summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Thank you. We need a second.
Second.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Grant,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes.
Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren,
Ma'am.
Commissioner Balance.
I didn't hear you. Are you saying balance?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Ma'am.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Chair Runyon.
Yes, ma'am. The motion passed. So now we need to act on the zone change request. I'll call.
Make a motion to approve the proposed zoning map amendment together with the condition upon the general development plan docket number 2021-11 Z County. Based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with the objectives and action items presented in the staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further, I request that this motion include a summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Thank you, sir. And a second. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Commissioner Grant,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren,
Ma'am.
Commissioner Balance,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Chair Runyon.
Yes, ma'am. The motion carried. Our recommendation will be for approval. Thank you all. And now we're back to item 2 on our agenda. That is docket number 2021-02 DP. Gator Development LLC and others have filed an application to amend the general development plan, the development plan conditions on a tract of land containing approximately 26.8825 acres located at 182 Upton Road and the entire Upton Farms subdivision. Property is zoned RS1B, which is single family residential with a general development plan. And now we'll have the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Runner. All right, let's see if I think we got the right one here. Okay. All right, so we had a pre-application conference for this property on December 10th. The applicants this evening are requesting this amendment to decrease the minimum first floor living space from 1,500 square feet to 1,200 square feet on the first floor again. So going through the maps real quick. Right now, the property is a mixture of single-family residential and vacant, as some of it's kind of already developed here. In the area, you've got agriculture, public with the park right there, and then commercial and public institutional, and then a couple multifamily also. Future land use map is low density residential. And I will leave that up, but the proposed amendment remains consistent with the future land use map, and the Planning Commission should determine if the proposed changes to the development are compatible with the surrounding area. This property was rezoned to RS1B in 2017, so it probably looks familiar to some of you. Going on to page 2 of your staff report, under the site design and compatibility review, I'll just note the architectural features. That just restates what the request is, amending that first floor minimum square footage from 1,500 to 1,200 square feet, with the overall square footage of 1,800 square feet remaining the same. And so just we'll go over and just look at the development plan conditions real quick. Number 2 just states what we're just saying, that is the primary request. Everything else is proposed to remain the same. When you go on to page 4 and you're looking at those conditions, you'll see 3 others listed there. Those are really more of a housekeeping issue, since this condition was also a plat restriction, but it was also listed as a binding element at the time of rezoning. So those 3 conditions there are just kind of a housekeeping thing to go with this request. Below that, you'll see the zoning ordinance requirements for amending the development plan, which you've already seen a couple times this evening, but the applicant submitted the following narrative. The characteristics of several of the lots have either severe slopes or inclines that reduce the building envelope, allowing to more evenly split the square footage of living space between the first and second floors will allow us to proceed in building out. The Focus 2030 category review, there were 9 items staff evaluated, 2 of which comply and 7 of which are left up to your determination. Those are LU 113, which deals with compatibility, LU2 and LU21, if the proposed amendment will result in high quality development that will protect the character of the area, HN1, HN13, if the proposed amendment will result in compatible infill development that will maintain or improve the existing character and pattern of development within the area, and HN21 and HN4, if the proposal will promote a diversity of housing types in the area. With that, we'll go back to page 1. We have some points to consider. The proposal remains consistent with the flume and low density residential designation. The proposal complies with the applicable criteria addressed in the site characteristics review and complies with the majority of the review criteria for site design. And the Planning Commission should consider if the proposed reduction in square footage for the first floor of new homes constructed within Upton Farms is compatible with the surrounding area. So that is all I have for the staff report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, you have questions for Ms. Ramsey?
So Monica, could I just give a brief summary of my understanding here, just to make sure we're all on the same page? There is no change in the square footage of these properties. They're just adjusting the first floor to accommodate terrain. Is that correct?
That is correct. The overall square footage of 1,800 remains the same.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Anything that the applicant would like to add?
No, ma'am, I'm here, but I'll be glad to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Thank you. That's Mr. Allen, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I thought I recognized your voice. I couldn't see you. Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Allen? Do we have any opposition to this request? Any questions from anyone in the audience?
Sure.
No questions? No questions? No opposition?
Hello, hello, hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. If you'd
Okay.
state your name and address for us, please.
Yeah, my name is Travis Birch. I live at 7106 Hilliard Circle.
And you swear to tell the truth before this commission?
I do.
Thank you. You can go ahead and ask your question.
So I'm really familiar with this terrain around here. I'm wondering how many lots are affected in such a manner that we would require a smaller first floor footprint.
You were a little staticky. I did not hear the question.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, that's better.
Okay. I'm familiar with this terrain. I'm wondering how many lots in particular are affected by the bad, slope or hills that they would require a smaller footprint on the first floor.
They would require what?
A smaller
Smaller
footprint.
footprint.
Okay.
To the best of my knowledge, right now, I've been informed of.
Let me swear you in first, Jody, just to be on the safe side. State your name and address, please.
Jody Allen, 1402 Mount Ayr Circle, Bowling Green.
And you swear to tell the truth.
Yes, ma'am.
There you go. Thank you, sir.
I'm aware of 4 to 6 currently. There may be more in the future as some of these lots continue to sell and builders try to position homes on them. But I've been asked by a couple of builders that currently have lots that have tried to put multiple different plans on there and just we're coming up a little tight, especially in the front yard or backyard. It really affects the lots that parallel Scottsville Road as much as any. But right now I'm aware of 4 or 6, but my guess is there are probably 8 to 10 lots that need this change.
Okay, and how many unsold lots are there?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
So we've got something like 40 to 55 that remain to be built on, and maybe 6 or 8, maybe 10 need this.
Well, we're just talking about a general development plan. We're not talking about each specific lot.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is because this applies to all remaining 50 some odd lots where it's only needed for maybe 6 or 8.
So we would, so I may be able to speak to that. We would not change the development plan conditions for specific lots. We would only change the development plans conditions for the entire development. So you're accurate in that the developer from this point forward would have the latitude to change the first floor footprint of any lot that they choose to going forward. However, they will not be able to change the overall square footage of the property, just the first floor.
Am I accurate in saying that the first floor footprint changes the value of the home and the cost to build it?
No, not necessarily.
It's not always cheaper to build up than out?
No, it's not always the case.
That's not what a lot of builders have told me.
I can't speak to what a lot of builders have told you. I can only speak to what we're charged with looking at here tonight.
Will residents of this neighborhood be, allowed to vote on this, or are we just spectators?
Mr. Birch, this is Hamp Moore. I'm attorney for the commission. This application has been advertised this evening in the local paper on the property and with those adjoining property owners. And so this is the opportunity to express yourself on the issue that's before the Planning Commission. But let me stress that what we're here about is the use of this property. And that's what the Planning Commission's being asked to consider.
The use of the property? What does that mean exactly?
Well, it's being used for residential purposes with development plan conditions that speak to the square footage of the residences on the properties, on the lots.
Okay. My main concern is simply that the quality, the price, sales price of the home could go down as a result of a smaller footprint, which can then be sold for cheaper.
I think your interests are identical to the developers. I think the developer is equally as interested in maintaining the high quality development for this property,
And what would make you say that?
because they have the same interest of protecting their investment.
Yeah, are we dealing with a situation where we've got a big corporate interest here that's purchasing dozens of lots where they would like to promise a certitude of sales? And, you know, maybe it makes sense to do that and accommodate them in a way that maybe wouldn't serve the interest of the current residents?
I don't have any idea about that, but I am certain that that line of thinking is way beyond what's before the Planning Commission tonight.
It's beyond what you guys would consider?
Well, it's way beyond the issues that are before the Planning Commission.
Okay. Do I have an outlet or an avenue to take up that consideration?
Well, if I had a question about that, I think I'd go to the developers and sit down and discuss it with them.
As part of a homeowners association, or?
Yeah. If you're part of a homeowners association, that sounds like a good forum.
Okay. I've received no information there, Jody, about homeowners association or anything. And I don't even know what my rights are in this. So, you know, maybe we can talk about that later.
I think that'd be worth your while.
Sure, be glad to.
Thanks.
Do we have any other questions? Do we have anyone in opposition of this request? No other questions, no opposition. I would like to ask for a motion, please.
Make the motion to approve proposed general development plan amendment docket number 2021-02 DP based upon testimony and documents presented as public hearing. Proposed general development plan amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with the objectives and action items presented in staff report. Further requests also find that there have been major changes of an economic, physical, or social nature within the area of the property in question, and request findings of fact and recommendations include summary of evidence testimony presented by the witness at public hearing.
Thank you, sir. We need a second.
Second.
Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Balance,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Park,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Runner.
Yes, ma'am. And the motion carried. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're back to item 6 on tonight's agenda. That is 2021-08 ZBG. HUB East LLC and HUB Multifamily LLC have filed an application to rezone tracts of land containing approximately 49.31 acres located at 0 and 494 HUB Boulevard from agriculture, highway business, and RM4 multifamily residential, both with general development plans, to RM4 multifamily residential with a general development plan. And the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Runner. Ms. Martin, would you be so kind to grant me control of the screen, please?
Sorry, it would not let me select.
No problem. Although the controls are not showing up on my end. Are you able to see those?
It's not showing up on mine either. Let me.
That was my fault. I chose the wrong mode, view mode.
There you go.
Oh, thank you.
This is why we can't have nice things. Sorry.
Now, Ms. Massey, please don't go there.
All right. I think we're all set. Okay. So we had a pre-application conference on December 17th for the property outlined in yellow. It actually includes multiple parcels. And the purpose of this application this evening is to basically establish a new development plan that would include all current and proposed multifamily uses in the hub, and kind of clean up everything. If you were to zoom in really close on the zoning map, you'd see that there are some slivers of highway business that are kind of left over with the current multifamily that already exists within the hub. And then you'll see the ag portion of the property. So this proposal would also encompass the ag portion, and it would all change to RN4 if the Planning Commission recommends approval for this application. So with that, I'm going to jump on to the preliminary development plan here. So you can see that's the existing, sorry, I jumped ahead a little quick. So you can see the existing development here on the exhibit, and then we will jump to the concept for the portion that's currently zoned ag. That would then be an extension of the existing multifamily uses that are already within the hub. The future land use designation for the development is actually from the Lovers Lane overlay future land use map. And there are two designations, mixed use and then also commercial. You can see the layout here. There are several new multifamily buildings that are proposed if this application were to be approved. And then just worth noting, the current binding elements or development plan for the hub limit the development to no more than 800 units. And this proposal would increase the number of units by roughly 20. But the density would actually go down because it would then encompass a greater amount of land. Under the surrounding architectural features in the site design and compatibility review section, we have noted that structures in the vicinity range from 1 story to multiple stories in height, and that new development in the Lovers Lane overlay is also subject to specific design standards for the Lovers Lane overlay district. And prior to any building permit being issued, the final development plan, including architectural items and site layout, must first be reviewed and approved through the overlay development plan process by the design review board. Under the area specific policy review, in reference to the Lovers Lane urban growth overlay district, we have highlighted a few applicable policies. The first, LLC 1, which states that all development in the Lovers Lane Road corridor shall conform to the adopted future land use map unless evidence can be presented that the proposed use is in compliance with the policies of the Lovers Lane Road corridor policy plan and the comprehensive plan. And the proposal does comply with the mixed use designation for the Lovers Lane future land use map. A portion of the proposed development is also designated as commercial on the future land use map. So if the Planning Commission determines that all other Lovers Lane corridor policies are met, this policy may be deemed in compliance. LLC 2, all residential development should be compatible with the existing neighboring residential uses relating to density, lot sizes, housing type and style, exterior building materials as it adjoins existing developments. The Planning Commission should determine if the proposal complies with this policy. And then LLC 3 and LLC 9, the staff did determine that those policies are in compliance. Moving on to the development plan conditions, there are 8. Number 1 looks at building materials, 2 utility placement, 3 open space and greenway considerations, 4 access to the property, 5 traffic signal requirements, 6 sidewalks, 7 lighting, and 8 includes considerations for sinkholes. We have evaluated 20 items from the Focus 2030 comprehensive plan and found 13 of those items to be in compliance, 0 were found to be out of compliance, and there are 7 that the Planning Commission should evaluate for compliance. First, LU 1.1.1, 1.1.2, and 1.1.3, which look at the future land use map and compatibility. Jump down to the next page, we have LU 2.8 and LU 2.8.1, which are in reference to the Lovers Lane policy plan. And then next we have HN 2.1 and HN 4. The Planning Commission should determine if the proposed density is suitable for this location. and if the additional residences will enhance the array of housing options available in the area. Going to wrap up with the points to consider on page 1. Again, the proposal does comply with the mixed-use future land use category. However, there is no specific category description for the commercial designation in the Lovers Lane focal point plan. And so therefore, if you determine that all of the other focal point policies are in compliance, then it would be in compliance with the future land use map. 2, the proposed development complies with the majority of the site characteristics review criteria, a majority of the review criteria for site design, and meets the minimum requirements in the zoning ordinance. And compatibility should be determined by the Planning Commission, including an increased number of multifamily residential units in the HUB. That is all for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Hurt. Commissioners, you have questions? No questions. Do you have anything the applicant would like to add?
Julie Shadowan, attorney here for the applicant, and we also have Brian Shirley from ACES and Trevor Cross representing the contractor.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have anyone listening, anyone in the audience that has a question? Do we have anyone in opposition to this request? No questions, no opposition. I will call for a motion.
Make the motion to approve the proposed zoning map amendment together with condition upon the general development plan, docket number 2021-08-ZBG, based upon the testimony and documents presented in the public hearing. The proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with the objectives and action items in the staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further, I request that this motion include the summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Thank you, sir. A second. Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren,
Ma'am.
Commissioner Balance,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Chair Runner.
Yes, ma'am. The motion carried. Our recommendation will be for approval. Thank you all. And that is our last item for public hearing. Mr. Peterson, do you have any discussion items for us?
Nothing tonight, just mention that there's really been no movement on the PC makeup, the joint agreement. That's kind of, I think, some discussions going on in the background there, but we may have some updates for you at our next meeting.
Have they had their yearly get together yet? And were you involved in that for the city?
The city retreat is the end of the month. I think it's January 29th, and they have asked me to be there to discuss the zoning ordinance changes that they have not passed yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything from commissioners? I just want to thank Mr. Warren for presiding at our last meeting. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be here, but thank you. It's so good to have somebody to count on. I appreciate it, Mr. Warren.
Well, I just did do your job, Vilma. I just did the best I could.
He did a great job, sister. He did a great job.
I have all the confidence in the world.
You set a high bar, Thelma.
No, sir. Nothing else. Thank you all. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, Vilma.